Hi everyone, welcome to Storytime with Grandma Kate. Today I'm going to be reading a book called Chrysanthemum. And this book is by Kevin Henkes. He wrote the story Julius, Baby of the World that I read to you right before we adopted little Leo. And Leo is down here trying to take a nap, so he might make an appearance in Storytime today, but we'll see. This is a story about a little girl who used to really love her name, Chrysanthemum, until kids at school started to tease her. Have you ever been teased at school? I was teased when I was really little. And then when I became a school teacher, I just was really, really sensitive to kids being teased. Even Papa did not like kids being teased at school. So we'll see what happens to Chrysanthemum once she decides to do something about it. I think her parents help her in this book. Let's find out. This book is called Chrysanthemum by Kevin Henkes. I'll move the camera so you can see it a little better. The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. "She's perfect," said her mother. "Absolutely," said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. "Her name must be everything she is," said her mother. "Her name must be absolutely perfect," said her father. And it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew. And when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. She's growing, 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 growing. And here she says, "I love my name." Do you love your name? I love my name. When I was in school back in the early 70s, there weren't very many Katies. There's a lot of Katies around now. But when I was little, there were a lot of Kathys, but not a lot of Katies. I liked that my name was unique. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. And she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when it was written in ink on an envelope. And she loved the way it looked when it was written in icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with her big fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect. And then she started school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile. She ran, she ran all the way. "Hooray!" said Chrysanthemum. "School!" But when Mrs. Chudd took roll call, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. Here's Mrs. Chudd, she's the teacher. "This is Don, Eve, Lois, Al, Les, Kay, Max, Sue, Bill, Pat, Tom, Sam, Ken, Joe, Rita, Victoria, and Chrysanthemum." I'll go back to school soon, won't you? Maybe virtually, but we'll still be going back to school. "It's so long," said Joe. "It scarcely fits on your name tag," said Rita, pointing. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria, "and you're named after a flower." Chrysanthemum wilted. When flowers don't get enough water, they wilt. They just kind of, it looks like they're melting. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chudd that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters.
That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet, Victoria explained. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd.
Now put your head down. Victoria, I think, is a know-it-all.
If I had a name like yours, I would change it, Victoria said, as the students lined up to go home.
I wish I could, thought Chrysanthemum miserably.
Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father.
School is no place for me,
said Chrysanthemum. My name is too long, it scarcely fits on my name tag, and I'm named after a flower. Oh, pish, said her mother, your name is beautiful, and precious, and priceless, and fascinating, and winsome, said her father.
Winsome means it's like, how to describe winsome? I just think it's like it's an enjoyable thing to experience, to hear. Winsome to me means something that's enjoyable.
It's everything you are, said her mother.
Absolutely perfect, said her father.
Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. Papa and I played parcheesi. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane.
It was an extremely pleasant dream.
The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could. She dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, 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 she wrote. She even looks like a flower, said Victoria as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Let's smell her, said Joe.
Chrysanthemum wilted.
She did not think her name was absolutely perfect.
She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better.
During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, a chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in a garden with worms and other dirty things.
Thank you for sharing with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now put your head down.
I just cannot believe your name, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home.
Neither can I, thought Chrysanthemum miserably.
Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. They said I even looked like a flower, and they pretended to smell me and pick me. Oh, pish, said her mother. They're just jealous, and envious, and begrudging, and discontented, and jaundiced, said her father.
That means all those things mean jealous.
Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours, said her mother. After all, it's absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, and another evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. Her father's reading a book called A Rose by Any Other Name, Understanding Identity. Identity means how you describe yourself, and part of your identity, of course, is your name. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals. Victoria picked her and plucked the leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare of Chrysanthemum's life. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets the next morning. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and her good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school. She stopped and stared at each and every flower. Chrysanthemum, 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 the flowers seemed to say. That morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was like something out of a dream, as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder, and they went out of their way to make a nice impression. That means they did everything they could so that Mrs. Twinkle would like them. Her chalkboard says, "Music is my life." Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. That means they would sing like me, 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 me. Can you sing that? Me, 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 me. And then they go up a little higher. Me, 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 me. And they go higher and higher. That's called singing the scales. Then she assigned roles for the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as the spiffy butterfly princess. Jo was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger. And Chrysanthemum was chosen as a daisy. You know what a daisy is? A daisy is a flower that has white petals and a yellow center. Uh-oh. "Chrysanthemum's a daisy, chrysanthemum's a daisy," Jo, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. "What's so humorous?" asked Mrs. Twinkle. "Chrysanthemum," was the answer. "Her name is so long," said Jo. "It scarcely fits on her name tag," said Rita, pointing. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria, "and she's named after a flower." "My name is long," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It is," said Jo. "My name would scarcely fit on a name tag," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It would," said Rita, pointing. "And," said Mrs. Twinkle, "I'm named after a flower, too." "You are?" said Victoria. "Yes," said Mrs. Twinkle. "My name is Delphinium. Delphinium Twinkle. And if my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. I think it's absolutely perfect." She's even kind of dressed like a delphinium. We have delphiniums in our garden. They have a tall stem with little, they look like little purple bells hanging off of them. And those are called delphiniums. Chrysanthemum could scarcely believe her ears. She blushed, she beamed, she bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Jo, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. "Call me Marigold," said Jo. "I'm Carnation," said Rita, pointing. "My name is Lily of the Valley," said Victoria. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. Look, even a little rainbow is there. How wonderful Mrs. Twinkle made her feel so much better about her beautiful name. And here's the epilogue. That's the part of the, it's like a little, after the end of the story, it's like, here's what happened after the end. Overall, the class musical was a huge success. Chrysanthemum was absolutely perfect as a daisy. Victoria made the only mistake. She completely forgot her lines as the dainty fairy queen. Chrysanthemum thought it was wildly funny, and she giggled throughout the entire dance of the flowers. Eventually, Mrs. Twinkle gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and of course, she named her Chrysanthemum. Our granddaughter Lily is named Lillian is her full name, but we call her Lily, and I love lilies and lilies in the valley. When we were naming Leo, we were first going to call him Freddie, after Freddie Mercury, because Papa and I both love Queen, and Freddie Mercury is the lead singer of Queen. But I don't know how we got Leo. I don't know how we chose Leo, but he's been sitting on my lap, sleeping during this whole story time, so I thought I would pick him up and show him to you. He's getting so big. Do you remember when I first showed him to you when he was teeny tiny? Now he is a big, big boy. It's beautiful Leo. There he is. There's beautiful Leo. Leo, Leo, Leo. Hope you had a great time with us during story time today, and I'll see you at our next story hour. Have a great day. Bye-bye.